So, a new form of update suppression has been released, and everyone is freaking out about it. Apparently, it can crash servers, ban players, make unbreakable blocks, dupe, and many other insane things. The bug was made public by Igna a few days ago, which got the attention of hundreds of anti-pay-to-win players hoping to destroy servers, and worried server owners trying to figure out how to prevent this from happening on their own server. It even got the attention of Mojang themselves and caused them to roll out a patch update only a day later, which has got to be the fastest they have ever made a patch update. This in turn caught the attention of Camman, whose video on it gave the exploit even more publicity. In this video, I'm going to experiment with this new update suppressor to test its capabilities, explain how it works by diving into the code, and yes, I'm going to show you how to build it. So I think channel 12 should actually prevent it from breaking blocks. Yeah, that's cool. So as you can see, I cannot pass through blocks. I can walk around now because it's on the right channel. That's why you need to place this lectern before. Otherwise, you'll just be constantly crashing the server for doing literally anything. But yeah, these blocks, the ghost blocks, can't actually pass through them. And if you right click, then they all just appear back. So that's really cool. You can even like place blocks. You can build a nice little fortified base with obsidian or something. Or you can get a netherite stash and just leave it out in the open, and no one will be able to take your stuff because suppressor. So that's pretty nice. So here in the Minecraft wiki, we can see that on signal 1, walking, climbing, jumping, swimming, or crawling will cause a suppression. So I think we go back into the game slash carpet update and do crash fix. Do I have? Okay, I do not have update suppression crash fix, so we're just gonna have to be careful. But let's see if a zombie can actually trigger walking. This might cause a crash. In fact, it probably will. Yeah, okay, it crashed. Let's quickly change it before it crashed again. Oh. Now I kind of want to see what happens if I take damage. So let's test this out. This is probably a bad idea. Okay, it looks like I just had no damage animation. Like, no invulnerability. Let's just try to see that again in like third person. So that looked kind of weird. Yeah, you just don't have like a damage animation. Okay, hey, let's try eating a food item, number 8. Let's try it with an enchanted golden apple, because I'm pretty low on health right now. No, I do not get it back. Well, that's boring. Number 4 is a player gliding with an elytra. Okay, we're back. So don't glide with elytra near this thing, or I think it probably kicks you. I don't think it crashes the server. I think it's just that since I'm in single player, that's fine. I think I might be stuck in a crash loop. I did not make any backup, so I might have to make a new world. I'm not sure. but it's been a few times and it's just been crashing every time ever since I threw that snowball. I'm gonna see this time. Maybe we can get it. If it crashes this time, I think I'm just gonna make a new world. Start over. Yeah. Okay. The backup has been made. So I don't really want to test any more player actions, but one thing I did see an interesting video of is someone falling with a totem of undying. And then they actually died. So I'm gonna see if I can recreate that. I think it counts as using an item, so number 3. That's the same thing that caused the crash shield last time. So we're gonna have to be careful, I guess. But I don't know. Let's try it out. No, the totem definitely worked. So it must be some other channel. Okay, so we're taking damage. Yes, that was it. And not only that, but also destroys all of your items. That is not good. So it does more than just that. I want to see what happens on dying, though. Okay, I'm gonna give myself some items, just like some random assortment of goods. So that we can see if dying affects how you drop stuff. It might just crash, but we'll figure it out. We'll find out. And okay, it looks like it does the same thing, where it just destroys all your items. I want to see what happens to confirm. So like, let's get some netherite blocks. Let's go to survival mode. Okay. Then let's give ourselves a netherite pickaxe. Efficiency 5. Yeah, so you can just place and then break it and then it just dupes it. So yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I think that shows that one's pretty good. It will not work with wool. So if we get some wool, then we go into survival mode, replace it. We can't keep placing it like we can with netherite. Also, if we make all the blocks unbreakable, this netherite will be unbreakable. All these blocks are unbreakable. Those are all unbreakable, but you can actually break this wool. And in case you're wondering, yes, this actually does work with shulker boxes full of stuff. Unlike most other suppressions where it usually deletes the data, this time it does not, which is very interesting. So yeah, you can have as many of these as you want, and like if we switch back to like 8 or something, you can actually mine these and have all these items. Like, these are real items. One thing that did seem interesting to me is a block changing number 11, like adding food to a campfire. And let's add some food to it. Oh, you just can't? Wait. It just prevents it from happening. Potato, I know that one. What the f? Okay, let's try with iron frames. I don't think iron frames are gonna do anything, because they're technically... Holy shit. And if you want to use this as a normal update suppressor, you can actually do that too. If you set it to channel 9, you can use this auto-resetting budline I designed, based off of a design by Sava. I'll leave it a schematic and world downloaded in the description. So you can just turn off the safety here, and then turn it on like that. And then you can just start suppressing like that. And if you go into survival mode, you can dupe just like that. And also you can slice portals. And of course, replace the bottom block with the block of your choosing. So yeah, works just like a normal update suppressor. And it just works by having this trapdoor flick every time it gets updated. Oop. You can't place that far back. You just turn it back on like that. So yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but this trapdoor actually flicks for like a tick, which sends a signal over to the suppressor, and that's what causes the suppression. This is the radius of the suppressor in which the suppression works, and you want it to be like right at the edge of this radius, right here, 15 blocks away. I think that's probably most of the interesting things you can do with this. There might be some other stuff, but I don't really want to risk crashing my game anymore, so that's probably all that I'm going to show in this video. So, next. Let's actually look into the code and figure out how this chest, which thinks that it's a calibrated skulk sensor, actually works. So, looking at the crash report, legal argument exception, it's the type of exception this update suppressor throws. So can't get property class 2754. Name equals skulk sensor phase class net Minecraft class 5705. Values inactive active cooldown as it does not exist in block Minecraft chest. So it's trying to get this property from the chest. And it does not exist, so it throws an illegal argument exception. So let's actually look into the code and see if we can figure out what this class actually is. So I have like the yarn mappings up right now. Okay, so I found this thing called Linky, which maps the unmapped versions to the map versions. And let's figure out what this is. Class 2754. Minecraft.class 2754. Enum property. And then class 5705. Skulk sensor phase. Okay, that's kind of what I thought it was. So it kind of says the name right next to it. But yeah, it's an enum. And then here's the methods that are being errors are occurring. State.get. Here it is. State.get. So, yeah, here's where the illegal argument exception is actually being thrown. Throw new illegal argument exception. Cannot get property plus property as it does not exist in this.owner. So, it's running a state.get. It's trying to... So somewhere in the code, it's running a state.get from the chest. It's trying to get the state of if it's on cooldown or not, it seems. Skulk sensor phase. And that's being called in skulk sensor phase, state.get skulk sensor phase. So the skulk sensor is calling get phase, and then it's calling state.get skulk sensor phase, but it's calling it from the chest, so that's what's causing the error. So After digging through Minecraft's code, I'm ready to tell you exactly how this exploit works. So basically, sculk sensors and calibrated sculk sensors have this MBT tag called listener, and that tells the game that it's going to listen for block events that happen nearby, or game events that happen nearby, such as like player walking, jumping, blocks being broken, blocks being placed, stuff like that. And that's how it can detect for the game events and stuff. But it also has a block property called sculk sensor phase, and it has 3 states: inactive, active, and cooldown. So you can only receive these game events if it's in the inactive state. If it's in the cooldown state, it's on cooldown, so I can't receive them. If it's active, it's already active, so it can't receive any more. So only if it's inactive can it actually receive these events. So the game is actually checking to make sure that it's inactive each time that happens. Now, if we go over to our chest, it has the MBT data of the calibrated sculk sensor, so it has this listener tag, so it's actually listening for the game events. However, it does not have the sculk sensor phase block property because that's attached to the block, not the MBT data. So when it tries to check for the block property of sculk sensor phase to see if it's inactive and it can receive block events, it actually will throw an illegal argument exception and say that it does not have this property, which will cause a crash in the game. So now I'm going to show you the actual Minecraft code that causes this to happen. So let's say we're eating next to one of these suppressors and it's on 8, which will make it crash when we're eating. And this will give us this nice little crash log here that tells us everything that went wrong. So the first thing that happens when you eat is it sends some packets that will call this method called consume item in the living entity class. So that's living entity.consume item. And what that's going to do is it will also call this other class called itemstack.finishUsing. So you can see right here. And then in itemstack.class, there's itemstack.finishUsing right here, which will in turn call item.finishUsing. Item.finishUsing will check if the object is food, and if it is, then it will call eatFood. And eatFood is under player entity, which will call super.eatFood, and the super is living entity. So now we're back in living entity, but this time we're doing eatFood, and it's going to emit a game event called gameEvent.eat. And when living entity calls emit game event, it will actually call entity.emit game event. It will call world access.emit game event. And then world access has a few different emit game event things for the different types of things that can emit game events, like blocks or stuff might happen to this one or this one or this one. But I'm pretty sure it's this one that gets called from the player eating. So then it emits another game event, and this time it's serverworld.emit game event. And serverworld.emit game event will finally call something that's not another emit game event. It will call gameEventDispatchManager.dispatch. And then gameEventDispatchManager will in this case end up calling simpleGameEventDispatchManager, and it will tell the simpleGameEventDispatchManager to dispatch, which will in turn send it back to gameEventDispatchManager, and it will call this weird invisible function that I can't really seem to find anywhere. The program I'm using, Linky, didn't have a deobfuscated version of it, and the parameters didn't match any of the functions that I could find in the yarn mappings, so I don't know what's going on there, but Seems kind of weird. Anyways, I was able to follow the stack trace from the crash logs back to the next area, which happened to be vibrations.vibrationListener.listen, and it actually sends it right here when it checks callback.accepts, which goes to calibrated skulk sensor block entity.callback.accepts, which then calls super.accepts, and the super is the skulk sensor block entity. So it's calling skulk sensor block entity.vibrations callback.accepts, which then checks skulk sensor block dot is inactive, and skulk sensor block dot is inactive is to like check the block state to make sure that it can actually receive the events, the game events. So we have it right here, skulk sensor block entity dot, or skulk sensor block, sorry, dot is inactive, and then it returns get phase equals skulk sensor block dot inactive. So it's checking if the phase equals inactive. So right here we have get phase, and then we're doing a state dot get for the skulk sensor phase. And then if we actually go into state and then find the get method, then we can see that it does this check to see if we can actually find the property, which is skulk sensor phase, and if it can't find it, comparable equals null, then it throws this new illegal argument exception cannot get property plus the property that's trying to get, as it does not exist in this.owner. And if we actually look at our crash log, we can find that we actually get this exact message, illegal argument exception, because that's the exception that's throwing right here, and cannot get property, and then it says the class, which we know is skulk sensor block.class, and then it's trying to get the property called skulk sensor phase, and then like here's the class, and then it has the three values, inactive, active, and cooldown, as it does not exist in block Minecraft chest. And that's exactly what's happening. It's trying to, so the skulk sensor is trying to check if it's inactive, see if it can receive those game events, but it doesn't realize that it's actually a chest, so it checks its own state only to realize that that state doesn't actually exist. So it throws this illegal argument exception, and that's how this whole exploit works. So here's the easy way to make the CCE suppressor. So we're going to start in a version 1.18 or below, or it can be any of the subversions of 1.18, just it needs to be before 1.19. And then we have this setup to make the CCE shulker. I've shown this before in another video, but real quick, here's the full setup. Then you just go like boom, boom, not that. Okay, there we go. You break this, and then you place your shulker box, and it's a CCE shulker because you can't open it. Yeah, we'll just place like another block there. You'll notice if you get out one of these, you can actually start suppressing. There we go. That's a real block. Well, now it's a ghost block, but it was a real block before. Yeah, you can start suppressing. So with this, you can suppress. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead, leave the game, and then you're going to want to update to 1.20.1. So I'm going to go do that real quick. Also, if the knickknack suppressor doesn't seem to be working for you, and it's like crashing your game immediately and stuff, you can always use one of the older designs, such as this design by XCOM, I believe, was originally designed it. And this world is by Sensei. I'll link it in the description. You can always make a CCE real quick, just like that. And there we go. So yeah, this should work. If neither of those methods are working, it's just a hardware issue. I don't know, try it on a different computer, I guess, like get your friend to do it and send you the raw file or something. I really don't know how to help you from there. It's just a hardware issue. So yeah. Okay, now we've updated to 1.20.1, but yeah, this thing won't work anymore at all. See, it just doesn't work anymore. But hopefully this still will work. Let's just test it real quick. That was weird, but yeah, it looks like it works. You can interact with it, so it's not a ghost block. Obviously, if you update it like that, it's gonna pop off, but so yeah, this is a working CCE suppressor. You can't open it, not even with an empty hand. So yeah, that's the first step done. So what we're going to need to do next is actually build the sound suppressor. So we're going to need this comparator, activated rails or powered rails, either one will work. Just gonna grab some powered rails, just gonna need some redstone blocks and an observer and a calibrated skulk sensor, also a lectern, a comparator, and a door and a note block. Okay, so we have our CCE suppressor here, the comparator facing outwards, and then we're going to want to place some blocks like this. It doesn't really matter how far, as long as it's like more than 9 blocks or so. Then we place our rails here. And you can use either activated rails or powered rails, depending on if you have like better gold farm or iron farm, I guess. Or whatever you feel like looks better. You bud them like that. We want it to be facing north-south like this. I think it'll work better. So what we're going to want is calibrated skulk sensor like that. We're gonna put a carpet on top of it. Then we're going to get an observer facing into it, and we're going to give it a note block. We're going to have a door there, so it should be flicking open and close. Then for preparation, I'm just going to leave a lectern here, because we're later going to put a book with 15 pages on it. Then actually bud the rails. We can go back into survival mode, and when the door closes, you start breaking. Okay, that looks good. That is a ghost block, which is a very good sign. Gonna want to get rid of this observer here. We're gonna put our book with 15 pages into the lectern. We're going to place a comparator here, and then we're going to place a chest. It can also be a barrel, but the chest is easier to know where it's facing. Place it like this. So now, I've showed you the easy way of making this skulk suppressor, or this noise suppressor. Actually, skulk suppressor is a pretty good name. I might start using that. But anyways, I'm sure you're thinking, well, I don't want to make this on a single player world where I can just start in 1.18 and then update from there to whatever version I want. I want to make this on a server where I don't have control over what version it's in. I want to make it completely in 1.20 with no version changing, no nothing like that. I want you to show me how to do that. And I would love to, but it's actually really, really difficult. And there is like one video on it. It's in Russian. So if you speak Russian, good. If not, just use closed captions. That's what I did because I don't speak Russian. And so basically what you're doing is you're trying to fill up the game's memory. So in order to fill up the game's memory, you need to know how much memory the game has, how much memory the server has. And if it's not on your server, that's really hard to do. Also, even if you know how much memory your server has, it's still not guaranteed to work. So you're going to need to make a copy of the server, like the entire server, and run it on the same hardware so you can test like how much memory you need to fill up with the books and the entities. You can use either snowballs or sand. Igna has a video on it. I'm probably going to link both Igna's video and Lame's video. Lame is the Russian YouTuber who actually has done it before, like the only person ever to do it in survival mode with the help of Igna on the same server, the WaveTech server. So yeah, it's not easy to do, and I wouldn't recommend it, especially if you're new to update suppression, and especially if you're not on a tech server. Like, this is really only for tech servers. Yeah. So I'm not going to go into too much, I'm not really going to go into detail about how to make this. Watch the video if you really, really want to make it. And that's really all I'm gonna say for the hard method. So, we've seen a lot of crazy stuff you can do with this exploit. It's a wireless update suppressor. You can connect it to normal update suppressors. You can dupe items. You can make unbreakable blocks. You can kick players repetitively. You can crash servers insanely easily. I crashed my own world like accidentally like 500 times while making this video. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but not that much. Yeah, it's... So, as a public server owner, is this something you should be worried about? That's really what I want to get into right now. And I think no, you should not be worried about this as a public server owner. And that's mainly because of how hard it is to build, and even if you did build it, it's way harder if the admin is not cooperating. Because, like, to build this realistically, you're gonna need to know how much RAM and memory the server has. You're gonna need to know all the server hardware specs, and you're probably also going to need a copy of the entire server so that you can run it on your own device with identical hardware specs and figure out all the fine-tuning necessary to actually put the massive entity out of memory setup onto a public server that you don't own. And it's just insane, and I don't think anyone's ever going to do it to your server. Now, that being said, if you are worried about this, then there's a really easy way for this not to happen, and that's just to update to 1.21.1, because the public methods of making this right now are completely patched, and I don't think the private methods are going to be released for a while after how quickly they patched the public ones last time, which was less than 24 hours. So yeah, you can just do that. And honestly, even if you're not worried about this exploit and you run a public server, I'd still recommend updating to 1.21.1, because there's an even more dangerous exploit, a much more dangerous exploit, that can basically allow anyone to crash servers just by sending like a special type of packet with a modified client. and that'll just immediately crash your server. They don't need any fancy machines, they don't need anything. They can just join, like, and then 1 second later, like in their first 5 seconds of joining, just crash your server, and then they can just keep doing that over and over again. No permissions, nothing. Like, it's insane. So if you are a public server owner, yeah, you probably want to update to 1.21.1 just to prevent that. I think you should be safe in versions before 1.21 because I haven't really like heard much about that. But if you are in 1.21, like 0.0, update to 1.21.1 just to prevent that from happening. And yeah, I think that's probably gonna wrap it up for this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing, and I hope you enjoyed. So yeah, I'll see you the next time I feel like making a video on something, I guess.